Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my cute little cheerful, smart, intelligent, and brave friends. Welcome to the Story House, a place where we present to you an interesting story from the Quran every day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has narrated many stories in the Holy Quran, wise and delightful stories that bring you joy and inspiration, while we learn wonderful things from the true stories, old and new. So, let's embark on a thrilling journey into the world of the Quran. But before listening to the story, make sure you have completed all your tasks properly so that you can enjoy listening to the story uninterrupted. And I really admire all of you being a part of this story. Now that your schools have also reopened, you will be having such great fun. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He let us always be smiling, cheerful, and healthy, and able to meet our friends and teachers. Ameen. Today, we bring you yet another interesting Quranic story from the 17th juz. Some parts of this story have been narrated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ambiya, and while the remaining portion is in the rest of the Quran. This story is very important and teaches us many lessons. The topic of this story is the epitome of patience. My lovely companions, you might have surely heard about Ayub alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised him, calling him extremely good, one who would thank and glorify Allah in every situation, and one who would always return to him. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam had come thousands of years before our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had bestowed Ayyub alayhi salam with innumerable worldly blessings. He had a righteous wife, children, status, health, wealth, money, gardens, abundant livestock, large plots of land, and housing. He was not deprived of anything. However, Ayyub alayhi salam was never inclined towards these worldly benefits. In spite of being extremely rich and wealthy, he never led a luxurious life. Rather, he spent most of his time in worship and constantly thanked and glorified Allah for everything he was blessed with. He would readily help the poor, needy, and those in distress. If he learned that a person was hungry, he would not eat until he had fed him. When he came to know that a person had no clothes to wear, he would strive to ensure that that person was clothed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in general tests his righteous servants similar to the ones conducted in schools. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam also had to endure a very difficult test. It so happened that unexpectedly Ayyub alayhi salam began to experience many hardships. It all began with the spread of a disease among his abundant livestock, due to which all his horses, mules, cows, buffaloes, sheep, goats, and camels died. This was followed by a severe drought in his land, destruction of crops and gardens, spoiling of all the fruits. In spite of all these hardships, Ayyub alayhi salam was not distressed. He was neither saddened nor complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, he was patient over Allah's will. Now, a bigger tragedy befell Ayyub alayhi salam. All the children of Ayyub alayhi salam were killed when the roof of the house in which they were sleeping fell on them. How did Ayyub alayhi salam react upon hearing this tragic news? He said, "Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who remembered me, and all my children belong to Allah, so He has every authority to take them back from me. This leaves no scope to be downhearted." He then, like before, immersed himself in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only a few days had passed after this trial, then Ayyub alayhi salam's health began to deteriorate. He was afflicted with a very painful disease. His entire body was covered with abscesses that oozed pus. He was so ill that the skin of his body used to fall off, resulting in the oozing of black colored blood. Ayub alayhi salam's wife, whose name was Rahma, was a righteous woman. She tried all means to get Ayub alayhi salam treated, but his condition worsened further, making it difficult for him to even stand or sit. No one could stand near him, as a terrible stench used to emanate from his abscesses. His illness was prolonged for such a long time that even his friends deserted him, and his relatives and neighbors stayed away from him. Everybody left him except his wife, who fulfilled her duties. Every day she used to clean his abscesses, feed him, and help him in his other necessities. Even in such dire circumstances, Ayub alayhi salam was an epitome of patience. All throughout, he remained patient and thanked and glorified Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not once did he utter, "Oh Allah, I'm in severe pain. What have you done to me? Please remove this distress from me." For many years, Ayub alayhi salam continued to suffer with his condition, and people began to say, "The stench from Ayub's abscess is very troublesome." Others were skeptical that they may acquire Ayub alayhi salam's disease. Some expressed their jealousy by claiming that if Ayub were a good person, Allah wouldn't have done this to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not care for Ayub alayhi salam. Frustrated with such comments, wife Rahma constructed a shanty on the outskirts of the city and began living there with Ayub alayhi salam. Prophet Ayub alayhi salam was bedridden. His entire body had degraded. His abscesses now harbored worms, except for his tongue, through which he remained steadfast in glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His wife Rahma strove very hard in taking care of him. Every morning she would help him with his essential needs and travel to the city for work. She would toil in the city, and the money thus earned was used for the sustenance of her and her husband. This continued for several years. One day, while returning from work, she came across an old man who was actually Shaitan. He had disguised himself as an old man. He inquired, "Oh, Rahma, how is your husband?" She replied, "His condition remains unchanged. He is in severe pain." Shaitan spoke to her in the most comforting manner. He then suggested, "The only solution to your husband's illness is pig's meat and alcohol. If your husband consumes the meat followed by alcohol, he will soon be relieved of his illness." Some narration claim that Shaitan had claim to Rahma that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not afflict his righteous servants with such dreadful disease. Rather, Shaitan had caused this disease. Hence, ask your husband to call out to Shaitan for help. Rahma was very naive. She could not understand that she was actually being brainwashed by a Shaitan who had disguised as an old man. In reality, Shaitan was calling Ayub alayhi salam towards a sinful path. Rahma mentioned her conversation with the old man to her husband. Upon hearing this, Ayub alayhi salam was extremely angry. He cried out, "Oh, naive woman, this was Shaitan who attempted to weaken my faith. If you have become weary of Allah's mercy, you can leave and let me fend for myself." Rahma was embarrassed and asked him to pardon her. Ayub alayhi salam was very traumatized when he heard the words of Shaitan through his wife. He said, "If I ever regain health, I swear I will punish you with 100 strokes or sticks." Rahma became quiet and returned to serving her husband as before. One day, Prophet Ayub alayhi salam turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeking his mercy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrates this dua in Surah As-Sad, which will be dealt in upcoming stories. The dua was, "O my Lord, harm has afflicted me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately responded to Ayub alayhi salam's desperate call for help. Allah said, "Strike the ground with your foot." When he did, as was said, a spring of water gushed forth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "This is a spring of water to wash in and cool and a refreshing drink." As commanded, Ayub alayhi salam washed his body with this water and drank it too. In a short while, Ayub alayhi salam got cured completely as if he had never been afflicted with any disease. Soon his body regained its beauty and strength. Allah the Most Wise instructed Ayub alayhi salam, take in your hand a bundle of thin grass and strike therewith your wife and break not your oath. Do you remember? He had vowed to punish his wife once he had regained his strength. Thereafter, Prophet Ayub alayhi salam collected 100 strips of thin grass and hit his wife lightly with it, thereby fulfilling his oath of striking her with 100 strokes. After this, both husband and wife lived happily. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then bestowed Ayub alayhi salam with even greater wealth, money, and children. Lovely companions, if we face any sort of trials and tribulations, then we should seek only Allah's help and should not be dejected. Some people, when they face problems, they tend to complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is not acceptable. We should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under all circumstances and should call out to Him in times of distress because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Almighty, An-Nasir, and most merciful. This completes today's story. We will be back tomorrow yet again with a new and interesting story, insha'Allah. And don't forget to always make dua for yourself and for all the Muslim Ummah after every prayer. If you like the story, please like, subscribe and share it. Insha'Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.